with somebody yesterday evening that, for example, as a French, from the south of France, as a French, I feel much more Latin, and I feel much closer to you Brazilian, for example, than even to the French Canadians, which I share a lot of history with and the language too. But the culture, the way of approaching story, the way of telling story, the way of accepting and being moved by stories is a very cultural thing. And I do think that, again, we can try to get the best of the two worlds, the best of the globalization, looking for more money abroad, but still keeping our differences, our styles, our speciality. It's difficult, and in terms of making a movie, most of the time, for my experience, you finish with at least two different versions of the same film. Once I will call the French version of the author, the director, and then you have the international version, which meets more or less English-speaking territories version of the film. And I'm not saying at all it's one version is better than the other. I would certainly prefer one of the two versions. But I think that if you try to make movies that are exactly acceptable for every market, every genre, the movie might be nice, but I think it might be a bit, I don't know in English, tiède.
Lukewarm.
No, it's not hot, not cold, it's average. Yeah. I would say also that never do what once we tell you to do. Try to do what you want to, achieve what you have in mind, because again, in my own experience, most of the time the films that we've done for cinema and for television, that people told them, no, don't do that, it won't work, that won't fit in any slot, that would be not interesting for anybody. If you strongly think that it's possible, then it might be possible. It's not for sure, but the fact that we are always discussing with broadcasters that they have their own problem, their own concern, and we have to understand that the problem of the audience, the problem of the money they have, the problem of the politics, etc., it's important, but we do have our own concern, own problems. So try to keep on the track you have in front of you. Might be full of traps, full of difficulties, but most of the time you can achieve really something important for you and then for the rest. And you wanted me to speak a little bit about cinema, and very quickly, sorry I'm too long, but we've done so far 5 movies for the cinema. We have 8 new movies in preparation for cinema. On the 5 we've done, there were 4 documentaries and 1 feature film. And amongst the 4 documentaries, the first one was March of the Penguins, which was amazingly successful, as you may know, but you cannot imagine how tough, how difficult it was to do that, because many reasons I won't have time to explain now, but I will be happy to speak with you later. And the second film we produced for the cinema was a portrait, archive portrait of Jacques Chirac. He was still the president of France, and he was a very, how to say, iconoclastic kind of portrait. Another kind of wildlife story, but very, I would say very unrespectful in a way, but very true, and what it was saying in the portrait. And we did that because we were very excited about the idea, because we were not totally fans of Jacques Chirac, of course, but also because after doing on cinema with such a success, The March of the Penguin, we did, and that was our first wildlife film, we did not want to be like the label, like the producer that have done the nice penguins in Antarctica, and then we received tons of projects about the wildlife. So it was a way for us also to show that we are, the range of the style of film we are open to is very wide, and stories are important, of course, and feelings into that story are important. The third film was the second film of Luc Jacquet, who've done the penguin, called The Fox and the Child. It was a feature film, but much related to nature again and wildlife, and it was very, very successful in France. It was 2.5 million viewers in France. So that year was the 3rd French movie of the year in terms of number of viewers. And the last one, the one before last we've done was last year, a documentary called J'irai dormir à Hollywood, Let Me Sleep Over in Hollywood. He was one guy who was the main actor, the director, the sound guy, the cameraman. He was doing on his own a movie with several cameras attached to his body, traveling from New York to Los Angeles, with the target to be able to sleep in a movie star place in Los Angeles. But actually the idea was to draw a portrait of the United States, to show people on television that you never see. And it was very successful last year. It was the biggest documentary in France. And again, everybody told us, don't do that, because it was from a TV program, from a series we do for television. We've done 30 episodes of 1 hour with the same guy, and we decided to adapt the idea for the cinema. And the last one will be released next spring. Is again an archive portrait of a dead French producer called Daniel Toscan-Duplantier. Was a very famous French producer. He created Unifrance film, etc. And so that's very small, very specific. It's black and white archive, only one guy speaking about himself during an hour and a half. But the content of his mind and of his words is so intense, so strong, so full of meanings, especially in these times where culture sometimes is hard to defend, that we decided to try to put it into the cinema. So we're not expecting millions of people in the theaters, but we do think it is important to do that. And the 7 other films we have in preparation are more fictions, big budget and international.
We'll have an opportunity to speak about that in the other panels.
And one last word, sorry, I would like to add is that we are very lucky in France, because it's not a big country, we are not the best, but we still have a very strong television and cinema industry, very vivid. And it's not because we are better than Italy or Spain or Portugal or other countries, it's just because we have, for 60 years now, we have a system we call the CNC. I'm sure you've heard about that, the National Center of Cinematography. That's always given possibilities and help for the industry to live. And if you compare just with Italy, Italy was a great country for cinema, a great country also for television. Now it's almost totally dead because of the politics of Mr. Berlusconi, and because of the impossibility for the producer, the local producer, to almost impossible for them now to be able to produce a proper documentary. So we have this specificity in France, and we have to be aware that it is very unique and very helpful for us.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Just as it's been pointed out, Emmanuel has said something which was said to us, I remember way back during the PIC animation, and it was said by Josh Spelling, which is stick on to your ideas, whatever others says to you, and depending on your conviction, that could make a huge difference in terms of otherwise trying to accommodate everybody within that. It doesn't mean that there is no dialogue, but at least it's on that front. The next person is Colette Lumet. She's a senior producer at the National Film Board of Canada. The National Film Board is this year celebrating its 70th anniversary. It is also at the same time one of the few public